Hello again. Uh, it's been like 2 weeks since I've done a diary entry. I've been 2 weeks ago was my birthday. I turned 47, and I don't know. It was weird. Don't want to talk about it because I already talked about it at length to several people that know me, and that's kind of not what I wanted to make this entry about. I've been I don't know. Over the last few weeks have been kind of ups and downs with the brain. Um, the weird thing about rapid cycle is you go into weird extremes, and sometimes you dive down rabbit holes, and that's kind of what I was going to talk about today. I dived into one of my an old rabbit hole. When I was a kid, I used to play. When I was in high school, I played Dungeons and Dragons. And for anybody that hasn't played Dungeons and Dragons, it's got a big resurgence these days in American culture. Like instead of chess club, now they have D&D clubs, which I think is fucking amazing. Um, but it was also at a time in my life I was doing bad things, or at very least we felt. I don't know. It was a time when I was a kid. When I was in high school, you feel very uncontrol, out of control, or there's so much in your life going on that's out of control. And in the D&D world, you were an epic hero that had powers to affect the outcome of that universe. So you felt like you were in control, at least in your imagination, when you were this other superhero person. So I played. So I played that for a little while, and recently this MMO, the modern MMOs, that was I was getting nostalgic about because I started playing MMOs way back when, and I started playing this new one that had an update, and it's the MMO for me. I know, and if you don't understand, it was like D&D without having to have the your friends to come over live with you to play. You could be on. I played online with other people all the time. And the game I was playing was the game that was closest to on pen and paper. There was this game called Champions, and I played D&D until my buddy, one of my high school nerd friends, alerted me to the game Champions, and then that's all I played because it was superheroes, and I was a way bigger comic book. I was a Lord of the Rings geek, but I was way more into comic books. I wanted to be, Spider, Batman, Wolverine, whatever, this amalgam of strange superhero, vigilante, whatever. My version of a superhero more than I wanted to be my version of Frodo Baggins or Aragorn or any of the other cast. So that was the magnet. And when MMOs and World of Warcraft first came out, in fact, this game predated World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft was the big one, as everyone still now knows. There was a game called City of Heroes, and it was basically it was as close to Champions as you could get, and it was like crack rock for a comic book geek because you literally, the way they had the thing set up is the way you made your avatar look, your superhero costume. That costume creator was so open ended. They literally got sued by Marvel because you could recreate any costume from any comic book that you'd ever seen. Um, I was less interested in making a version of Wolverine to run around in the game with than I was making some of the superheroes that I played in Champions as a kid. The first one I made was Johnny Deadman, which is he was my most long running Champions character, my fantasy undead punk rock guy who is desperately trying to find a way to get himself killed permanently. It's a callback to the suicidal tendencies I had when I was 16, but Johnny is pretty apathetic about the whole thing because he's been undead for a few centuries. So he's more like he was a good for the chaos part of my id, and he's still one of my favorite. He's my superhero. I created Johnny Deadman, the undead, and he's had permutations in every game I've ever played. If you have a creative character in a game, I'll usually make a Johnny Deadman because that's just that's callback to my Johnny Deadman with your D&D character is at 16 the version of your imaginary friend that you had if you had one when you were 5. It's the best analogy I can think of because Johnny Deadman was my imaginary friend, and my imaginary friend Johnny Deadman was a badass, and so this game was it was amazing because it was in its entirely self-contained world. Like every module from the D&D just right there on your computer, and you're just running around in it without having a D&D dungeon master having to explain it to you all, or four guys at the table. And the community of that game was one of the things that kind of made me stay, because like I had been the woman I loved was playing Warcraft at the time, so I played Warcraft with her for a bit, and their community was way more hostile. When, like, if you didn't understand something about a game mechanic and you asked about it in public chat, people would really kind of give you a pile of shit before they helped you about being a noob and shit. Wherein on the other game, it was more like no one blew your shit. They'd help you out. They're like, no, you got to go here and do this, or go into this menu and do that if that's what you're having problems with. And people that were dicks about it were immediately reported. It was an interesting online community, because it really was. They were a lot of the friends I never met in person, and during the time I played that game. But I played that game like religiously for 3 years. It was the only game I played, because all of my escapism that I wanted to that gamers do, that a little escape from reality where you feel powerful and cool and you can kill bad guys or execute whatever whatever fantasies in the subconscious that you want to exercise. Then it was there, and for like 3 years straight, City of Heroes was the only game I played. I didn't need to buy anything else. I bought new computer components to make it look cooler, and graphics upgrades. And you had like weird, cool, profound moments. Like, I had been gaming with this guy for a good couple months during one summer, and we were on like one of the major things that became when Ventrilo and TeamSpeak became a thing for online gaming, and I was actually talking to the people I was playing with instead of typing in chat. That was another cool thing, because that was one of those nights where I was just gaming with this guy, and he confessed to me, he's like, I'm gaming from Iraq, I'm in the Marine Corps, I'm over here as part of the Second Gulf War. And I'm like, no shit. He goes, yeah, I'm on R&R cycle. And we had a long conversation about the shit that after I told him, I was in the first Gulf War. And that was the first opportunity I ever got to talk, really talk with one of the guys that were over there that were doing a job that I thought, they're like, well, part of your warrior's pride is like, why are you guys over there if I didn't do my job right the first time? There's some part of you that's going, and you don't want them to be cleaning up your mess. I don't know if I'm articulating that correctly, but it was a really cool conversation, and he introduced me to all of his other Marine Corps buddies that also played City of Heroes on their rest cycle when they could, and that was a grand old time. That was the first as geeks band together and communicate with each other and game with each other. Some of those communities can be toxic, but City of Heroes was a very supportive one. When I joined a guild, it had at the beginning of the guild's history, they had a reputation of being kind of dickish. But all the guys that I met that ran it were really nice guys. So, and I found out that, yeah, they canned a bunch of those dickhead people and were recruiting, and they really liked gaming with me because it was a lot of fun. And it was one of those types of things where you can change the image of, perceived image. Everybody thought the group I was in were kind of dicks, but the more we gamed with everybody and the more we were friendly, we were like, hey, those guys we shit canned those guys, man. It's all, we're all here to do the same thing and have fun playing superheroes, and consequently supervillains. Because they did when they did the expansion to the bad guy. I had this great, the great fortune of being canned from my job because it got bought out by a bigger company. So I had like 2 months with a severance package where I did nothing but play video games and do poetry readings. Which, yes, it's very escapist, but it was more like vacation. Because I just spent 6 months working 6 years? I can't even remember the timeline. See, that's a long... In this pharmacy, I worked for a guy that hated me. I mean, legitimately did not denied it to your face, but would not like even pretend in action or behind, talking to anybody else that he did not like me. And I guess it shows how much of work and trying to sort out your head in everything else turn you blind to stuff that I just come back from being shot at, having this asshole as a boss. When you don't break any rules, they can't really fire you. I just got to deal with fucking this guy blaming me for everything that goes wrong in the place, even when I'm not there. Legit, what happened? It would legit happen. It was insane. This guy, I never understood this level of self-loathing that would manifest with this. He was a horrible human being. He's one of the few people I wish no good on. He's just a horrible, sad example of humanity. And but it was it was crazy because that was like the gatefold, because they were the people that bought out the company that I got let go from, and then the company that I got let go from, I loved that job and everybody there, from my boss to most of my employees. There were a couple that were irritating, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't bad. We all did the job, and it was great. And it was one of those experiences after the war that I was. After you get out, you start looking at civilian. Jobs are hard because you don't relate to people. So finding a job where you can relate enough to function and even like figure your own stuff out without having people so mad at you they want to fire you, as well as work you enjoy that's not killing you, was a difficult thing to do. I mean, before this job, I worked at the Oklahoma County Jail, passing medicine to prison inmates, to the inmates at the county jail. And since I was the only male on staff, I dealt with the federal inmates and the $50,000 bond or higher, which means your armed robbers, your rapists, the cream of the crop. Or just these are the people that are in the system. They do bad things. I almost became one of them a long time ago. But because I don't have any sort of insults don't bother me. This was the perfect place for post-war, because I was used to getting fucking yelled at from even before drill sergeants on the playground. So it was a weird transition from that job to this job that was a great job. I loved going there. I loved being there and working with those people. They didn't quite understand that, but it was fun. I enjoyed work, and then they got bought out, and that was that space of time where I would get up, drink beer, play video games, eat, go to sleep, play video games, go to poetry readings, and that was it. And still collect paychecks because of the severance package. And then because they were so awful, everybody that they let go or didn't keep in the transition, they ended up hiring, and I was the only one that was thick-skinned enough to stay. Me and my best friend, that was from the previous job, ironically. And yeah, we kind of kept each other sane in that mountain, in that giant hurricane of insanity that was the pharmacy we worked at. So, like, the weird transitions that you have, because I don't remember. I think I think I first dived down the MMO rabbit hole because I was trying to avoid the reality of losing a job I liked that I didn't want to quit, that was basically taken from me, and coming out to, well, this is the same job, it's just now all awful, filled with people that are bad and a few good ones that don't stay very long. That's literally the transition. Same workspace too, same building. It was crazy. And I know crazy. I have a diagnosis. But recently, I've started playing this game, The Secret World, again, which is another It has that same kind of feeling of empowerment. You know, you step out of your own life and get into the excellent storytelling that this game hooks you with, and the next thing you know, it's midnight and you should probably go to bed because you have to work tomorrow. Um, But like City of Heroes, I'm sure once I get to the end of the story, which is now the only thing that's got me hooked. I keep grinding because I keep wanting the next chapter of the story, which you got to play the game through to get to the next chapter of the freaking story. I'm pretty sure once I get to the end, I'll lose my interest again because it is a very lather, rinse, repeat type of game. Um, but it is a wonderful place to kind of go. Well, here's a place with a bunch of monsters that are not only blatant, but I have a whole bunch of things at my disposal to do battle with them. Read that psychologically into what you will. On the other hand, it's like, sometimes you just want to be a fucking superhero for a while, and that for gamers is a lot of the time that's the draw, that's the escapism. That's why they're so vehemently defensive about their game, about any gaming subculture whether it's Call of Duty fans or Overwatch fans or Sea of Hero fans, which I've, after going on YouTube to kind of warm my nostalgia up about this game. There's a whole lot of those players, and I'm one of these days I got to figure out. I saw a chat program that was catering exclusively to former players of the game, and I'm hoping once I figure out how the thing works to maybe possibly connect with some of those friends I knew back when, just by broadcasting. Hey, I used to play here. I was these guys, and it'd be cool to fucking dip in and talk to you guys and see what you're doing with what has happened since the game, because the game is gone. They canceled it. Um, but yeah, that was an interesting time in the contrast, and I mean that might be the contrast too. When you look at your real life being kind of all shit you got to get through, to pay the bills and do the stuff, to pay the bills, to support the art, to keep you sane. And sometimes that you just do want to kind of have a place to step aside from it, where you got magic powers or guns or whatever. In the current game, I have magic powers and guns, which is kind of fun, especially when you're fighting Lovecraftian looking monsters. It's wicked cool. Um, but the escapism of gaming is an interesting rabbit hole if you when dived into, because the community that supports it can be some of your best friends, and if it's a really good gaming community surrounding the game, yeah, you run into some really cool stuff. I was online guest at an online superhero gay wedding. It was cool. So stuff like that. It was awesome. And as a lot of people used the game as an enhanced chat room, you'd see people just standing around in zones, just doing emotes and just bullshitting back and forth. It was an amazing online community that I've yet to experience in another game. Been close a couple times. The Secret World community seems pretty cool about not being dicks about get good. That's how you fucking do it. They've been pretty nice so far in the 3 days I've been playing off and on. Kind of relentlessly. Probably escaping work too. Let's be honest. There, diary, i.e. world, i.e. fucking thoughts and self. Yeah, I need to get back to the grindstone. Nats is coming. I'm feeling really good about being on stage and getting everything that I want to say out in the time. Should be interesting. Should be really interesting. Because then I got to pull the trigger on a bunch of other stuff once this Nets thing is over, like getting the fuck out of Oklahoma City. I can't live here anymore. It's driving me further into a place I don't like being anymore. So, yeah. Until next time, thank you for your time, or if you've chose to listen and watch this diary entry. And, yeah. Until next time, voices in my head.